Hello, everybody. Welcome to our December All Hands meeting. Thank you all for joining us. We'll give folks just a couple more minutes to join on, so hang tight. Thank you. Hi, folks. Welcome. We'll give it just another minute. I'm seeing more and more people join. Okay, great. Thank you all for joining. Before I toss it over to Interim Superintendent Shauna Young to take us through our agenda today, we want to start with our opening question. So next slide. And in this opening question, we're going to ask you all to engage in our chat here. So what is one thing you are looking forward to in 2021? We know that this is our last all hands of this year, 2020, and it has been quite the ride. And we're just curious to know from all of you, what are you looking forward to next year, either personally or professionally? And if you could type them into the chat, when I toss it over to Shauna in just a moment, she can read a few of those out loud. Great, we're seeing some good ones come in. For those of you who just joined, we are typing into the chat box, what is one thing you are looking forward to in 2021, either personal or professional?
Good morning, everyone. This is Shauna. I don't know if anyone can hear me, so please let me know. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
We can hear you, Shauna, and we are just in the middle of the prompt right now where folks are sharing one thing that they are looking forward to in 2021, either personal or professional. So feel free, Shauna, to just start reading them off of the ones that are published.
Okay. I have to go back to the chat to where we started. I am seeing for the virus to be over, hugging my parents, which might make me cry on the call today. COVID vaccine, seeing friends and family in person and indoors soon. People who are looking forward to ways we can apply what we've learned from virtual learning. Kids going to school, which I hear you, for my own children and all of our children. Getting the vaccine in time to attend my niece's graduation, someone says. Opportunity to take a vacation after vaccines help curb the virus and everyone is healthy and safe. Ending a first year of celebrations without my grandmother and mother-in-law, which are major losses for both of our families. And I think that expression of grief is one I see echoed in a number of comments here. Looking forward to peace, both personally and professionally. Looking forward to snow in 2021 and hopefully sooner. I might not be the only one wishing for a virtual snow day tomorrow. Going back to work and normalcy. Meeting some of our teammates in person who have come through and joined before we were all able to be together. Someone is looking forward to getting their Peloton bike. Good for you for being healthy. Looking better to a much better year in 2021. A do-over for all my vacations, new beginnings, a less divisive country. Someone is looking forward to a classic DC brunch with friends, which sounds amazing. And these are going to go on for a long time, I think. And I appreciate everyone's comments about things they're looking forward to. It's making me both smile and be nostalgic at the same time. So thank you, everyone, for sharing these things, and please continue to share more things as we go, and then we will, but in the meantime, I think we can kick it off with addressing the agenda for the rest of our meeting today, and my apologies again for technical difficulties on getting on the call. So today we're going to share a bunch of updates about the activities and some of the reports that we've been putting out to the community. So we will talk about My School DC EdFest, which happened this weekend. We will talk about the DC School Report Card and graduation rates. We will give updates on planning for a future return to work, talk about some HR announcements and trainings, and then talk about other activities for the holidays. So first, I will hand it off to Ariane Bouquet to talk about the 2020 Virtual EdFest that was a great success over the weekend.
It would help if I unmuted. Thanks, Sean. So 2020 Virtual EdFest, who would have thought that we would have to pivot a 7,000 person event all online, but we did. So this past Saturday, December 12th, we held Virtual EdFest for the first time ever from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Kelly, do you mind going to the next slide? Just a little bit about EdFest for those of you that aren't familiar with the event. It is the annual citywide public school fair. It is an event that kicks off our lottery application season, and it is an opportunity for families to visit all of their public and public charter school options in one location on one afternoon. It was really exciting that for this virtual event, We continued to have 100% representation from all of our public and public charter schools, including those that do not participate in the lottery. So it really was a genuine opportunity for families to be able to shop for the schools that they are most interested in applying for the coming school year. So we weren't able to have it in person given the public health advisories. It was completely online. We shortened the event. Typically it's from 11 to 1 p.m. To 3 p.m. and we shortened it from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So materials for this event, one of the reasons that we sought this platform are available to anyone that registered for the event for 30 days after. This is a huge benefit for families, for example, that may not have been able to join for the entire 3 hours, registered and something came up last minute and weren't able to join at all. So families can continue to access the platform for 30 days and look at the different school options that they may be interested in for the coming school year. The event itself was completely developed. It mirrored the in-person event, but it was also developed and processed with Parent Advisory Council input of My School DC and LEA input. It was incredibly important for us to continue to sort of have this look and feel of the in-person event, somewhat simulate that energy that we get from going to the citywide school fair, but also equally important to understand the value that the event brings, both from a parent and LEA perspective, and make sure that we continue to maintain that continuity, both for the schools and for parents. Next slide. So given that it was completely virtual, it was also important to us to make sure that families knew about it. So we had a pretty extensive promotion strategy. And here I really do want to give a couple of shout outs both to Lita and her team on Aussie Comms, as well as to Evan and Gwen for getting us an amazing list for mailers and phone banking. So given that this was completely digital and we aren't able to do our typical on the ground promotion strategy, we pivoted to phone banking to call targeted applicants, targeted families to make sure that they knew about the event and were able to participate in it. We completed over 270 registrations over the phone, so that was a really big effort on our part, and we are so excited to have been able to do that. We had digital ads, radio ads. We also did mailers to prospective applicants, and this is where Evan and Gwen came in really handy with a wonderful, wonderful database. We did end up doing some transit and bus shelter ads, some TV ads, and we also had a marketing toolkit for exhibitors, as well as a partner toolkit to be able to share amongst their networks. So our internal goal, not really knowing what a virtual EdFest would attract, was 1,500 registrants. We had over 4,400 in-person attendees at EdFest last year. The way we count attendees is anyone that walks through the Armory door that is there to participate in the event. So if there's a family of 5, they're counted as 5. We assumed 1 registrant per household. So we were thinking really that the 1,500 was looking more like a population of 3,000 at least. We ended up with 3,900 registrants, and we were really excited to see that those registrations represented citywide registration. So there was not one ward that was not represented in the registration amount. And the highest registrations came from our target wards, 4, 5, 7, and 8. So again, very excited to see that level of engagement. On the day of, we had, of those 3,900, a little over 2,000 check in to participate in the event. So over those over the 3-hour event, we had at least 1,000 plus attendees per hour engaged on the platform, with over 240 exhibitors. The exhibitors themselves totaled about 800 folks. And here I definitely want to give a shout out to Aaron Garrett from Aussie, who also coordinated the efforts of the Aussie booth, as well as the special education in the district booth. The SPED booth is a booth that was new last year, and we continued this year. And it's actually become a really, really big success. Folks are learning more about their rights and the different services available and supports available to them. So I'm really thankful that OSSE has stood up a specific booth to coordinate the efforts amongst a lot of partners, both in OSSE and district-wide, to share with families what special education and navigating that looks like for students and families. Every booth had an average of 44 visits, or there was an average of 44 visits per booth. And again, the benefit to this virtual EdFest is that families have access, if they registered, through January 11th to any of the materials available in the booth. We're actively communicating that with exhibitors so that they can continue to maintain their information up to date, and as well as use it for things like collecting additional sign-ins, collecting interested families for open houses. So this is it provides an interesting opportunity for continuing communication through the event with registrants until January 11th, something that is not possible with a day of event. My school DC, of course, was represented. That's Kat doing a video chat. We had more than 250 visitors to our booth. Typically at an in-person EdFest, we are the front of the armory. So we play both a little bit of an information desk and a lottery help desk. We were able to engage with families via direct messaging, group messaging, and video chat. And we had materials for folks to download. This mirrored what other exhibitors had in their booth and how they were able to communicate with families. Direct messaging was by large the, I think, most effective and most used way of communicating both with exhibitors and parents. And that's just using the chat functionality. But video chat was an option, and some exhibitors also made use of a live option. So think of a virtual open house. They use that kind of format to engage with families as well. I want to mention that in addition to the 100% participation by public and public charter schools, we also had 15 of our community-based pre-K programs exhibiting at the event, and over 20 non-school exhibitors. So those are government programs and agencies like OSSE, the Ombudsman, the Student Advocate, Connect DC, that provided educational support for families and information about those supports for families throughout the event. So overall, it was, we feel, a really positive day for families and schools. It was odd to be sort of experiencing EdFest behind a screen and not being able to, you know, see families and get that that type of energy that schools themselves bring. But if you did register for the event and are able to go and visit all of the booths themselves are pretty amazing, and schools did a fantastic job, as well as the non-school exhibitors, to really showcase what it is that they have to offer. So I'll end with, it was an awesome and very interesting journey for our team. Our team was amazing throughout. Really thankful for the partnership from a lot of OSSE divisions to help stand this up. We couldn't have done this without you. And please remember that the lottery application for school year 2021-2022 is currently open and closes on February 1st for high school and March 1st for pre-K through 8th grade. The hotline is ready to assist you guys if you yourselves have any application needs, so do give us a call. Thanks. I'll kick it off back to Shauna.
Thank you, Ari, and I would just want to say thank you to you and the whole My School DC team. It's really inspiring to see how you all took something that was an amazing in-person event and were really creative in making this opportunity available and accessible to all our residents. So I really appreciate your work on this. I also see that there are some specific questions coming in for this and probably our other presentations. We're going to hold them all till the end when we have more time. And then if you have questions about this or the data coming up, we can also address those questions at the end as well. So just streamlining the operations of the call a little bit. But thank you so much. Now we will have a presentation about the DC School Report Card and the 2019-2020 graduation rates. And we try and prioritize getting important information that OSSE publishes to the public and sharing it with all of our staff so that we too can know and be informed about the important information that we're putting out to our communities and families, and that we also have a chance to learn about it and engage with it. So on that note, I will turn it over to Donna Johnson to share this information.
Thanks, Shauna. One of the things we are really excited about is that in the midst of all of the challenges that we have been facing, we have been able to continue to launch the DC School Report Card, even though it has a different level of data than what we've seen in prior years. We can move on to the next slide. On December 3rd, we released the third year of the DC School Report Card. And the purpose of the DC School Report Card actually really serves a lot of different lenses and a lot of different roles. So it was designed to make sure that we give families the opportunity to look into all of the public schools, both DCPS and charter schools, with common information. We have over 150 data points per school on the DC School Report Card. And despite there being limited information, we still were able to add new details, and we're still seeing a large population of people using the report card. In fact, since the launch, we've had nearly 2,000 unique visitors in just the last 12 days using the report card. And since it was first launched in 2018, we've had over 106,000 users. So you may be asking, with everything that we didn't have information to publish about, what did you do new on the DC School Report Card? And one of the things that we've done is we've continuously tried to change the way that users interact with the DC School Report Card and provide information that they find most useful and helpful. So this year we added some things that we've heard requests for, such as more information about how to access the Common Lottery and the Common Application and Lottery. In the spring, we also added school finance details, which is a per pupil funding, and we will update that again this spring. Because we know that this is a challenging year, we also added a banner with a link to a page that provides additional information and resources for education during the COVID-19 pandemic. So you'll be able to see that no matter where you are. We also recognize that people want to know how they can contact and find out what's going on at the school, and our schools are using more social media than ever before. And so we've added Instagram as one of the options. We've seen a lot of our schools using that. And then you'll see here on the slide a lot of different information. But we also added our new student privacy and data suppression policy was implemented, and we have an at-a-glance review of that as well. So that's a new way that we are protecting the privacy of student data. Now, we go on to the next slide. There is still new data elements from the 1920 school year, even though we had a waiver from USAID around state assessments and several of the accountability components, such as star ratings. We still have all of the information on our school profile page. We have graduation rates for both 4- and 5-year graduation rates, as well as college enrollment rates for our high schools. And then on the school environment section of our report card, we have teacher and school leader data metrics, which includes experience, certification, and in-field status. And then the types of health staff that are employed and available at each of our schools is listed on the report card and updated for this school year. There's a lot of information that we have on the report card, and we didn't want to remove that information. We know how important it is to make sure that people are able to see historical trends and get a sense of the performance of the school. And so all of our historic data is still available, including the availability to be able to see 3 years of trend data where available on all of our STAR metrics, academic metrics, and school environment. So we do have some information that we will be releasing that is separate from the report cards. We publish an attendance report, a discipline report, and then there's some additional information on the mobility of our students and the re-enrollments of our students that we will be publishing along with those reports. It's slightly different calculations than what we normally see on the report card, which is why we didn't want to put them side by side with historic data that was calculated differently. But we know the information is important to the public, and we'll be releasing that on the OSSE website soon. When we released the DC school report card, this was also how we released this year's graduation rates. And we released both 4- and 5-year graduation rates. So just as a recap, if we'll go on to the next slide, the 4-year graduation rate is the rate at which students graduate within 4 years of the first time they've entered 9th grade. So we saw an increase of nearly 3%, which is a very large, significant increase. We've had 2 consecutive years of slight declines of less than 1%. So this year having an increase of 2.7%, given all of the challenges that we know our students and our staff were encountering, was a major increase. We saw that over the last 10 years, we've had nearly 12 percentage point increase in DC overall. So we're continuing to see a trend of an upward shift, and it's the first time that we have actually exceeded our 4-year goal, which is a part of the Every Student Succeeds Act of 70.5%. We also publish a 5-year graduation rate, and the 5-year graduation rate is sometimes a bit challenging to understand, but it's really just looking at the number of students who have graduated within 5 years of the first time they started 9th grade. And we did see that this year that rate was slightly lower than last year. However, what's important to look at, and a way to look at this data, is to compare this year's 5-year rate compared with last year's 4-year rate. They're not exactly the same population. There might be a few students that were in one that are not in another, but for the most part, the population from last year's 4-year rate is very similar to the population in this year's 5-year rate. And so that gives us an idea whether our schools are supporting students to continue to graduate even 1 year after the traditional 4-year cycle. Now, we did see some positive news for our student groups. We saw increases across almost every student group, and you'll see some of the student groups have larger swings and change from last year. Oftentimes that occurs when you have a very small size, such as with 2 or more races or our Asian population, which are significantly smaller than the rest of our student groups that you see in race ethnicity. And you'll see the change here on the screen, and I think it's a very positive trend to see that we are seeing significant changes, not just in the overall student, but in each one of our student groups as well. And at the school level, we had 19 traditional high schools who had improvements in their 4-year rates compared to last year. You'll notice that some of those schools had larger swings, either in the positive or the negative. So it's important to take a look at the school's graduation cohort size, because you'll notice that if a school has a graduation cohort of just 35 students, 1 or 2 people not graduating compared to a prior year is going to create a much larger percentage change than you might see when a school has a population of 200. So it's important to look at that, but we are seeing 19 schools having increased rates. Federally, we also report the number of schools that have a percentage rate of both 4- and 5-year rates below 67%. A large number of our alternative high schools have graduation rates below 67%, and we know that that is truly indicative of some of the population that is served, that these are schools that are serving students and trying to re-engage students. So we see a much lower rate of graduation than at traditional high schools. We currently only have 2 traditional high schools that are in the below 67% for both 4 and 5 years. And every 3 years we go through and we identify these schools as being identified for additional support that we refer to as Comprehensive Support 2. And those schools develop a plan for increasing their graduation rate and how they're going to better support students to graduating in 4 or 5 years. And to end on a bright note, we had 9 schools have 4-year graduation rates of 90%. That's an increase over last year where we only had 7 schools with graduation rates above 90%. So you'll see that list before you. And we're excited about the information that we have presented. You can find it on the DC School Report Card, as well as a downloadable public file from dcschoolreportcard.org. And then if you want just the graduation rate files, they're available on the OSSE data site. You go into the LEA schools and then select data. You'll find the graduation from all of the years that have been published there on the OSSE site.
Thank you, Donna. I really appreciate you sharing this information with us, and everyone should know that this is available to the public and also to us if we're interested in looking on the sites and using it to inform our own work or our own children's choices. So thank you so much to you and to the whole DAR team for pulling together this important information. We will move now to some updates. We have been providing updates on planning for a future return to work in every meeting just to keep everyone updated on where we are in the process. As you know, the public health emergency is extended through December 31st, 2020, and we expect it to be extended further. And the city remains in phase 2. As you know, OSSE remains in a remote posture. However, there are a number of OSSE staff that are reporting to work at their locations on a regular basis, including in our Division of Student Transportation and in OSSE Maine. And over the past 2 months, we've discussed a voluntary opportunity for a limited number of OSSE staff to work in OSSE locations. As of November 23rd, the mayor has indicated that some certain phase 2 adjustments across the city, including the encouragement that agencies continue to telework. So given that as we've always said, that health and safety guidance prevails, we are pausing on the voluntary return of staff who were not previously directed to report to the office. We have received interest from around 30 OSSE staffers who were interested in returning, and we have notified them. The return to work team has made updates to the protocols and signage for staff working in our buildings, and we are very excited that those new protocols and policies are being implemented for the folks who are returning, and will continue to be updated for safety and clarity for folks who are in the buildings. So we are pausing the return of additional staff to work for the moment, but we are continuing to be prepared so that when it does feel like the appropriate time, we can offer that opportunity again to our staff. So I just want to thank you for your patience. As with many things during the pandemic, it can be challenging to be nimble, but we'll continue to pursue any opportunities we can to offer that safe opportunity when it's available. So next, I want to make a few HR announcements about upcoming trainings and requirements and opportunities for all of our staff. First, we are conducting a professional development needs assessment survey. Our talent team is conducting this needs assessment survey to evaluate your needs and to develop solutions to continue to improve professional development offerings at OSSE. We think the survey will take about 15 minutes to complete. It's been sent out to all staff already, if you can find it in your inbox. The survey is now live and is going to close on next Wednesday, and the results will be shared with staff later this winter. We're doing this because in our all staff survey, 64% of people agreed that professional development opportunities at OSSE can contribute to me doing my best work. And this rating has improved significantly since 2015 with the introduction of initiatives such as Coaching Pilot, Mentoring Pilot, and the OSSE Learning Portal. However, we want to keep improving this area and be creative and thoughtful in the materials that we're and trainings that we're making available. Like with the staff survey, we want to remind you that the needs assessment is completely anonymous. So please share your honest feedback about what's working for you and areas that you'd like more opportunity. And we really do appreciate that you share the details in open-ended questions, and we'll read every comment to help us inform our work. So I want to encourage you to please fill out this needs assessment about what professional development opportunities you've taken advantage of and what other opportunities you might be interested in. Next, I wanted to share an update around Vision Zero training, which is a required training for all OSSI staff. Vision Zero is a part of Mayor Bowser's response to the U.S. Department of Transportation's Mayor's Challenge for Safer People and Safer Streets. Vision Zero aims to improve pedestrian and bicycle transportation safety. And OSSI staff are required to complete online Vision Zero training, which can be found in PeopleSoft on the employee's self-service screen. Our agency must complete the training by December 21st. And if you can please block off about 25 minutes of your time to watch the video and complete the questionnaires at the end of the training, that would be great to help us reach that goal. I think we all take transportation, particularly at OSSI, very seriously, and we want to make sure that we're contributing to the ongoing safety across the district. So thank you in advance for making time for this. Just a couple more. We want to share an update on annual leave, use or lose. So there have been a number of questions about this, and this is an update related to the district's policies. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we recognize that many employees have been unable to use as much leave as they would have liked to use this year. Normally, employees can carry over no more than 240 hours of annual leave into the next calendar year. So due to COVID-19, DCHR is allowing employees with more than the maximum 240 hours of leave or 40 universal leave hours by December 31st, 2020 to have the leave automatically restored to a separate leave account for the use in 2021 and 22. And so those special restored leave hours from 2020 will expire after 2 years in 2023. So that's the way the district is able to make those hours available for the next couple of years to leave and not lapsing due to this particular circumstances this year. In addition, if you have excessive leave, please also consider donating some or all of your leave to the district's annual leave bank. Your contribution will assist citywide employees who have exhausted their available paid leave and are experiencing a personal or family medical emergency. So if you wish, you can complete an application to donate to the leave bank. So OSSIs who wish to donate leave must submit the form to OSSI Payroll at ossi.hrpayroll@dc.gov by close of business tomorrow, December 16th. So please consider taking advantage of that opportunity to help our fellow district employees if you are able to. Finally, wanted to remind you that it is time for flu shots. In accordance with recommended COVID-19 guidance, OSSI DCHR will not host worksite flu shot clinics this season, but DC government employees are strongly encouraged to seek out care through their healthcare carrier or provider as applicable. And specific other reminders from DCHR were recently sent out about this. We may have a COVID vaccine on the horizon, but flu shot vaccines are here, so please take advantage of them for you and your family to stay safe as possible this winter season. A quick update on holiday activities is next. We mentioned in last month's All Hands that many of us remain working from home. We wanted to continue to explore some virtual ways that we can celebrate the holidays together. So last month, we launched 6 weeks of holiday activities with a theme each week and several opportunities for staff to get involved. In the week of gratitude, we had the opportunity to hear from all of you on our Kudo board of things that you've been thankful for this year and had the chance to see some delicious Thanksgiving table spreads. In the week of giving, we launched the warm clothing drive with a donation box set up in the lobby at 1050 for anyone able to drop off items. And I want to thank Tasheen Stalling from our homeless education program team for launching that drive, which will continue to go on through the end of the year. Last week was the theme week of relaxation, in which Suzanne Henley from the Division of Health and Wellness led a relaxation meditation event that was very well attended and appreciated by our staff. So I want to thank Suzanne for her time and putting on such a wonderful event. This week is the week of warmth, where we're encouraging all of you to submit a photo in your warm and cozy holiday sweaters or ugly Christmas or other holiday sweaters if you choose. And next week, the theme is joy, and then finally Week of Hope with more themed activities as we go. So stay tuned to hear more from OSSE Communications, and thank you to everyone who are both participating in the activities and hosting them on behalf of your OSSE colleagues. I think we have just a few final minutes for open forum to have folks a chance to ask some questions. I know there have been some questions about earlier presentations as well, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible in the remaining minutes.
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Shauna. So we do have two questions that were related to EdFest. So I'm going to ask Arian just to come back on and help answer these specific questions. The first question was, what platform did you use for EdFest, and can we use it for other events? And then, can people who didn't register for EdFest still access the recordings now?
Yep, those are excellent questions. So we used a platform called Accelevents. It's spelled ACCELEVENTS. I would, if you're interested in using that platform, love to have a conversation with you about our experience with the platform before you commit to that as the platform of choice. It wasn't as smooth sailing, so yes, definitely would love to have a conversation with you. We used it through our contractor, so I'm assuming that it is, of course, available for you to use, just making sure that you go through the appropriate contracting processes. But yeah, would love to have a conversation with you. And Lita, what was the last question? I'm sorry. Oh, if you can access the information. Yes. We are going to create a generic email. So one of the ways that, or the way that you are able to access the information on the site is by entering your email and password. We're going to create a generic login. So check it back in with me or with the hotline, and we'll be happy to provide you with that generic login information for you to take a look at what the event looked like.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Arian. And then Shauna, we do have a couple of questions here asking about whether or not vaccines, since we know that vaccines are now available to the public, if they will be required, if our staff will be required to take the vaccine before coming back to work.
Thanks for those questions. There has been no requirement for that. As you know, a number of a portion of our workforce across the district and at OSSE is reporting to work now. However, overall, OSSE, just like the rest of DC government agencies, will be working under the guidance provided to us by DC Health and DCHR moving forward. So as we have any updates about any accessibility for vaccines or requirements for returning back to work, we will continue to share them with you. That will, as with many of these health and safety related questions, be a longer term conversation as we go, and we'll continue to provide you as much timely updates as we can every month when we meet, and let you know any updates that we get. In the meantime, as I mentioned, we continue to update and implement the health and safety guidelines at every OSSE facility to make sure that we're always in compliance and up to date with the latest guidance from DC Health to make sure our facilities are as safe as possible.
Great, and we did have a couple of questions about the use or lose time. And so I know we don't have time to get into the specifics. So do you have some direction for folks on if they have some lingering questions about that particular section of the presentation today?
Yes, I consider you suggest that you reach out to OSSE HR or DCHR. The specific process that they will be taking for rollover time is specifically because this year is different than others. They are allowing more time than the 240 hours to roll over into a separate account that will have to be used in the next couple of years. But beyond that, I don't want to comment too much more on the details because I don't want to get it wrong, but our team in DCHR will be able to share more specific details on the sort of tactical use of those moving forward. But I think we are grateful that they're providing that opportunity to staff because this year has been so unusual.
Okay, great. And we are just at about time, Shauna.
Great. Well, I appreciate everyone for participating and having great questions to ask of our teams. And I just want to thank you once again for joining. I apologize for the little bit of the delay up front. Continue to reach out to us if you have content and topics you'd like to see addressed here. And I just, if we don't have a chance to say it again, wishing all of you a really happy, healthy, and safe holidays. And I hope you get time to rest and refresh. So thanks, everyone. Have a good one.